it's Magnolia, and we're back with another Get Ready With Me. So, get ready with me while I talk about medical assistance in dying, also known as MAiD. MAiD is a healthcare issue that often sparks immediate reactions. It sits at the intersection of law, medicine, ethics, and personal autonomy, and it raises questions about suffering, dignity, and the limits of medical intervention. At first glance, it can seem very straightforward, but the more you look into it, the more complex and layered you realize it is. And that complexity is exactly what makes it worth examining. So let's get into it. When I first learned about medical assistance in dying, also known as MAiD, I thought it violated the most basic medical principle: do no harm. How can ending a life ever be ethical? That was my truthiness. Medicine is associated with saving lives. We're taught about non-maleficence, which is the ethical principle of avoiding harm. So when I heard about MAiD, I was like, wow, this really contradicts that principle as a whole. And that's because death is the ultimate harm. At this point, it felt like medicine was honestly just crossing the line. And I didn't question my reaction, I just assumed I was right. Then I actually looked into the law. In the Supreme Court case Carter versus Canada in 2015. Hi, this is Magnolia from the future. We're gonna watch a quick video going into more depth about this.
When the Supreme Court of Canada decision said that it was unconstitutional to have a blanket prohibition, then that's really when the law changed. Now, there was changes done to the Criminal Code of Canada through Bill C-14, but it did take some time for that to change. What kind of procedural safeguards might be appropriate? Because when we're talking about this significant of a change in the law from blanket prohibition, not allowed at all, criminal offense, to all of a sudden allowing it, it needed to be set up in a structured way. And the way it got structured was as an exemption under the criminal code. So even the changes to MAiD that allow it are actually right in the criminal code itself.
Now here's where the ethical conflict comes into play. In class, we learned that ethical decision-making in healthcare isn't just based off one principle. It's about balancing principles. Non-maleficence exists alongside autonomy, beneficence, and justice. Patients already have the legal right to refuse life-saving healthcare, even if that means dying. So the real question isn't simply, is death harm? It's what counts as harm? Is it biological death, or is it prolonged suffering against a capable person's will? MAiD is emotionally charged, and emotionally charged things move quickly. Social media simplifies complex legal frameworks and turns them into headlines, and discomfort can quickly turn into certainty without investigation. And that's truthiness. As a future aspiring MD, JD, dual doctorate degree candidate, I can't simply rely on instinct. Discomfort is never evidence, and ethical practices require more than emotional reactions. Whether someone supports MAiD or opposes it, the conversations must be surrounding law, evidence, and ethical principles. Do no harm may sound simple, but defining harm is not. I went into this thinking that MAiD was a simple conversation to be had, but really, the more deep I went into it, the more complex it got. I now understand that ethical decision-making within healthcare and its legislation is not straightforward. It involves balancing principles, interpreting law, and confronting questions about autonomy and suffering. Truth isn't what feels right at first, but it's what holds up under examination. And sometimes, the most important thing is not choosing sides, but it's being brave enough to ask the right questions. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this little get ready with me and learned something new today. Bye!